I still remember the day my world collapsed. October 6th, 2008. The markets were in freefall, and I was watching 15 years of careful investments evaporate in real time. My screen flashed red as stock after stock plummeted. The retirement fund I'd built, the college savings for my daughters, the safety net I'd created, all of it disappearing before my eyes. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst was Richard Kessler walking into our investment firm's office that morning with his perfect suit and perfect smile, assuring everyone that this was just market turbulence. He gathered all the senior partners, myself included, in the conference room. "This is temporary," he said, voice steady and confident. "Our hedges will protect us. In fact, this is an opportunity." I believed him. We all did. Richard was our managing partner, the financial genius who had built Kessler and Associates into one of Boston's most respected boutique investment firms. He convinced us to double down, to leverage what remained of our personal portfolios to ride out the storm. What we didn't know was that Richard had already pulled his own money out. He'd been quietly liquidating his positions for months. While telling us to stay the course, he'd been moving his family's wealth to safety. 3 weeks later, our firm collapsed. The SEC investigation revealed that Richard had known exactly what was coming. He hadn't just protected himself, he'd actively bet against the very investments he was pushing us into. The hedges he claimed would save us were fictional. The opportunity was for him alone. I lost everything. My savings, my home. My marriage crumbled under the stress. I had to pull my oldest daughter out of her first year of college. For months, I slept on my brother's couch while looking for any work I could find. Richard? He faced some fines. His reputation took a hit. But he walked away with millions while I rebuilt my life from scratch. He moved to Connecticut, started a new firm, and from what I heard through former colleagues, thrived. I never saw him again. Until today. 15 years later, I've managed to create something resembling a life. I'm the chief surgeon at Boston General's cardiac unit now. Medicine had been my first love before finance lured me away with promises of wealth. The crash forced me back to my original path, and after accelerated retraining and years of grueling work, I'd found my footing. This morning, my assistant told me a Mr. Kessler was asking to see me urgently. I almost said no. Then curiosity got the better of me. When Richard walked into my office, time seemed to fold in on itself. He looked older, grayer, but still carried himself with that same confidence. Then I noticed his red-rimmed eyes, the tremor in his hands. "Dr. Matthews," he said, voice breaking, "my son needs your help. They say you're the only one who can perform the surgery he needs." I stared at Richard, letting the silence stretch between us. Part of me wanted to savor his desperation, to let him feel a fraction of the helplessness I'd experienced all those years ago. But the professional in me took over. "Tell me about your son," I said, my voice clinically detached. Richard sank into the chair across from my desk. "Tyler. He's 19, a freshman at MIT. His voice caught. 3 days ago, he collapsed during track practice. They found a congenital heart defect, some kind of rare aortic aneurysm. The cardiologist said most surgeons wouldn't touch it, but you..." He looked up at me with bloodshot eyes. "You pioneered a procedure for exactly this condition." He was right. Last year, I'd published a paper on a modified valve-sparing technique for complex aortic root aneurysms in young patients. Only 3 surgeons in the country performed it, and I'd had the most success. "Where is he now?" I asked. "Intensive care, downstairs. They transferred him here this morning when your name came up. The team is prepping him for surgery, but they need your approval to proceed." Richard reached into his pocket and handed me a flash drive. "His scans, please." I inserted the drive into my computer and studied the images. The aneurysm was severe, a ticking time bomb. Without surgery, Tyler had days, maybe hours. "You know who I am," Richard said quietly. "You know what I did." I looked up from the screen. "Yes. I've thought about you over the years," he continued. "You and the others. I told myself it was just business, that everyone knew the risks. But that was a lie." He leaned forward. "I ruined lives, yours included." I said nothing, just continued examining the scans. "After the crash, my wife left me," Richard said. "Took our daughter with her. I deserved it. Tyler is all I have left. He doesn't know about what happened, what I did. He thinks I'm just a financial advisor who made some bad calls." I closed the image files. "And what do you want from me, Richard? Absolution? Forgiveness?" "I want you to save my son," he whispered. "And if you do, I'll give you everything I have left." I laughed bitterly. "Everything you have left? Do you have any idea what it was like? I lost my home, my marriage. My daughter had to drop out of college and work retail for 5 years before she could afford to go back. My younger daughter couldn't even apply to colleges because there was no money. My retirement disappeared overnight. I know, he said, his voice barely audible. I can't undo that, but I can try to make amends. I've set up a trust, $10 million. It's yours, whether Tyler lives or dies, if you'll just try. I stood up, anger burning through me. You think you can buy me? That this is about money? No, Richard said, tears streaming down his face now. This is me begging you, as a father, as a human being who made terrible mistakes. Please don't punish my son for what I did. The words hit me like a physical blow. Was that what I was considering? Letting an innocent young man die to punish his father? I walked to the window, looking out at the Boston skyline. The world seemed to slow around me as I weighed 15 years of bitterness against my oath as a physician. I'll examine him myself, I finally said. If I believe I can help him, I will. Not for you, not for your money, because it's my job. Richard's relief was palpable. Thank you, he breathed. Don't thank me yet, I replied, heading for the door. And Richard, keep your money. I don't want it. The surgery lasted 9 hours. Tyler's case was even more complex than the scans suggested. The aneurysm had weakened areas of the aorta that weren't visible on imaging. Twice during the procedure, I thought we might lose him. My hands remained steady, but my mind raced with conflicting emotions. In the operating room, with a life hanging in the balance, everything else falls away. There was no room for revenge or resentment, only the absolute focus of trying to repair what was broken. With each suture, each careful manipulation of damaged tissue, I felt the weight of my own history with Richard receding. When we finally closed, I was exhausted but cautiously optimistic. Tyler's heart was beating on its own. The repair looked solid. Now we just had to wait. I found Richard in the surgical waiting area, slumped in a chair, his expensive suit rumpled. He shot to his feet when he saw me. He made it through surgery, I said, removing my surgical cap. The next 48 hours are critical, but I believe he has a good chance. Richard's knees nearly buckled. A nurse guided him back to his chair as he covered his face with his hands, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Thank you, he managed after a moment. I can never... Don't, I cut him off. I didn't do this for you. He nodded, composing himself. Can I see him? In recovery. A nurse will come get you when he's ready. I turned to leave, but Richard called after me. Dr. Matthews. Daniel, wait. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. This isn't payment, it's information. About the others from the firm. I hesitated, then took it. I found them all, Richard continued. Tracked what happened to everyone. Some recovered financially, others didn't. I've been quietly helping where I could. Anonymously funding scholarships for their children, buying debt and forgiving it, making investments in their new businesses. I stared at him. Why? Because it's the only thing I can do. It doesn't fix anything, but... He trailed off. The trust I mentioned? It's real, but it's not for you. It's for a foundation, to help families affected by financial fraud. I was hoping you might consider being part of it. Not for me. For them. I tucked the envelope into my pocket. I'll think about it. 3 days later, Tyler was conscious and improving rapidly. I checked on him during morning rounds, explaining the procedure and what he could expect during recovery. He was bright, inquisitive, nothing like his father except for the eyes. As I was leaving, I passed Richard in the hallway. Tyler's asking about you, I said. He wants to know how we know each other. Richard paled slightly. What did you tell him? That's not my story to tell. He nodded slowly. I'm going to tell him everything, about what I did, who I was. He might hate you for it, I warned. Probably, Richard agreed, but I've lived with lies long enough. 2 weeks later, Tyler was discharged. As they were leaving, he stopped by my office. My dad told me who you are, he said, what he did to you and others. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. You have nothing to apologize for, I told him. I know. But I'm going to help him make it right. The foundation he's starting. I want to be involved. After they left, I opened my desk drawer and took out the envelope Richard had given me. Inside were the names and stories of 23 people whose lives had been altered by one man's greed. 23 chances to help heal old wounds,